We're live in Phoenix, Arizona, and it is no secret some of the most deadly violence in the world is just across the Arizona border in Mexico, and it is a constant fight to stop that violence from bleeding into the United States. U.S Marshal David Gonzalez faces the violence every single day with his team, and he joins us live. Good evening, sir.
Welcome to Phoenix and the McDowell Mountains.
It is absolutely beautiful, a little bit toasty, but beautiful, a little bit toasty. These are weapons used by the drug cartels, right?
These are standard weapons used by cartels, seized by ATF and other federal agencies and state and local agencies on a daily basis, purchased primarily in the United States, which is a huge problem because, as you know, we have drugs and money going south, and we have people and dope coming north. And dealing with those two issues creates a lot of violence and a lot of issues, not only in this state, but throughout the country.
Well, it's extraordinary the amount of firepower. We've been down in Mexico, covered the story at one point, and what we heard is that the firepower of the drug cartel exceeds what we give our ATF, for instance. I mean, we don't have necessarily the same firepower that we use back at them.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, U.S. law enforcement, state and local U.S. law enforcement, and Mexican law enforcement, you cannot compete with firepower like this. There's just no way.
What do you need? If President Obama were watching tonight and head of, whoever the Marshal Service of Washington, what could help you?
Well, it's a very complicated process because you have intertwined the drug smuggling and human smuggling, and when you have that much money involved, it's very difficult to take head on. But I think if there's something that we could do as a country to help stem the tide of a lot of these issues is I think we need to really concentrate on where the primary issues are. In this case, guns going south and money going south, identify who the main players are in these organizations and take them out, similar to what happened in Colombia. And that is why we're dealing with a lot of the situations we're dealing in Arizona, is because the Mexican cartels took over for the Colombian cartels who were split up, and the Mexican cartels have become so strong and so wealthy that to deal with them, we need to break up those cartels so that we can manage them. So I think that is our primary responsibility and issue that we need to deal with.
And of course, since you are right on the border, this gets pushed in your face, this state's face every single day, the risk, the scare. The thing that I thought was extraordinary is that the cartel, of course all the drug cartels are horrible in Mexico, but the one that catches my attention is the Zeta, is that how you pronounce it, which are former Rangers, I guess, out of the Mexican army that have gone rogue.
Yes.
They're special forces. They're special forces, and they are so well trained and they are so violent that they went rogue, and there's almost no way to stop them.
Well, there are 7 main cartels. The Zetas started off as enforcers and then became a cartel. But just south of our border, to our border here, 180 miles from where we stand now, that area is controlled by a federation of cartels, and that's what they're called, is the federation. Is a group of 2 or 3 different cartels that have formed together to control the distribution routes. And this is what all the violence is about in Mexico, and it's now bleeding over into the U.S. It is control of lucrative drug and human smuggling distribution routes. That's the bottom line.
Well, we have the drug smuggling, we have the gun smuggling, and we have the violence. But the human trafficking is terrible too. That's not. The things that people have to go through.
Phoenix is number 2 in kidnapping in the United States. Number 1 is Mexico City. You figure Arizona, the Phoenix area here, has 5 million people. Mexico City, about 25 million people. And we're number 2 in the country, in the world when it comes to kidnapping, and and that's all connected to human smuggling, which is connected to obviously the money, and that seems to be the root of all of it.
It seems as though until recently that people have not listened to Arizona. People have not listened as how big a problem it is here. Is that your sense that it's fallen a little bit off the radar screen for other issues? Yeah,
it has been frustrating being a law enforcement officer here, and I think that's why 1070 was passed. I think there was a lot of frustration that more needed to be done on our border. We have 365 miles of border with Mexico, and it is the busiest sector in the country. 48% of all illegal immigrants that come into the U.S. come in through the Tucson sector. About 48% also of all drugs that come into the U.S., like marijuana, come in through the Tucson sector. And they're all controlled by the Mexican cartels.
And the cartels, I mean, I don't mean to be too gruesome, but the article that always sticks with me is when they're trying to intimidate some people in a club, so they beheaded 5 people and rolled heads across the dance floor, or where they open up the chest and take the hearts out. And it's like, I mean, the violence is, it's something you wouldn't even go to a horror movie to watch.
Well, exactly. And the 12 policemen that were killed in Michoacan yesterday was...
Oh, I forgot the 12 policemen yesterday.
And that's, Greta, that's to send a message to the locals, to the government, that they're here to stay and they're not intimidated, and we're here to the very end, and you're not going to scare us off. So we're in for a long battle.
How many deputies do you have about?
In Arizona, we have about 220 deputies, and working fugitives, sex offenders. We work very closely with the Mexican government, bringing fugitives out of Mexico, which is a huge problem, because a lot of fugitives that are wanted in the U.S. Flee to Mexico. So we work very closely with the Mexican government to get our fugitives out of there.
Well, I mean, I know your deputies are tough and everything, but I hate to even see them put at risk. And of course, they're put at risk when you have, firepower like this.
When you deal with this, there's what can you do?
Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you.